You are listening to the Techie Leadership Show with Bogdan and Andrei.
Well, hello and welcome to a new episode of Tech Leadership. Today, I have on the line with me Amar B. Singh. He's a corporate development professional with over 18 years of work experience across operations, marketing, investment banking, strategy, and planning. He is also an engineer, has an MBA, and has a law degree. So be careful what you say. He is also the author of 3 books on the subject of awareness, human identity, and the grief and sorrow of humanity. Hi there, Amar. How are you?
Hi, Andrei. Thanks for having me on this show.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited, and I think we're going to be like an amazing show. Is there anything else you would like to add to let people know about you?
So this possibly is the most difficult question as to, we use it so often.
Try to be as modest as possible.
Yeah, asking someone to introduce himself and who are you? The question basically is a very difficult question because I can only tell you about my job, about the degrees that I had, the ones that you mentioned, the things that I do. But
Yes.
who am I is a very difficult question to answer. I like to see myself as an explorer of life. So I don't really, want to brand myself as a professional or as an author, as a father, as a son, as a friend. I'm so many things to so many people. So most of all, I'm a human being, an explorer of life. Yeah.
That's awesome. Like explorer of life, that's a new concept, at least for me, because if I'm thinking about it, when you explore life, you're actually part of all those things. Being a father, being a worker, everything it's encompassed, but it's working together. It's not like dominating you. It's just being. It's hard to explain, but it's like.
Yeah.
So, but today we're going to focus on one part of your exploration of life, which is leadership and how we can become better leaders and some stories about leadership. And with that in mind, what would be like the biggest leadership success story that you've witnessed, that you know about?
Yeah. So, see, as you would totally understand, after 18 years of work experience, like you mentioned, I've seen several leaders. I've had the opportunity to lead teams myself, and leadership
Sure.
is a subject on which, we were discussing. There are very many dry papers on theory, theoretical leadership and so on, and we have servant leadership and charismatic leadership and all sorts of names. However, what really works, to my mind, is best captured in that quotation from someone, I forget the name, which is, if you want someone to go out and fish or something, go out to the sea, don't tell him how to build the ship. Teach him the desire for the sea. Right? So if you teach the person a desire for the sea, he figures out how to build a ship or a boat or a whatever, and he does everything. So this kind of encapsulates and captures the whole concept of leadership for me, because we see very many leaders trying their best with good intent to teach people, help people, mentor people. However, what really works, in the longer run, is if you teach the desire for the ocean, not how to build a boat. So that is my summary about leadership. The leaders whom I appreciate have been like that. They have shown a dimension where you would like to go. You would want to do that. You would want to explore that, and that has been enough for any person of a reasonable IQ, like we all are, to figure out the rest for ourselves. So that is what captures the concept of leadership for me.
So desire for the ocean.
Yeah.
Have you ever like have a leader? Did you experience like leadership that made you have the desire for the ocean for the business goal?
So, so in that I would want to give an example. In my very first organization where I
Okay.
worked for, I was with Tata Steel at that time, and
Okay.
we used to kind of work with Nippon Steel company from Japan, and they had some models that they used to use in their company, what we did not use in Tata Steel. And so my manager at that time, he was a great leader, again going by my definition of leadership. uh,
Okay.
he didn't ask me to learn those models, he didn't ask me to collaborate with them, he didn't ask me to do any, the nuts and bolts of what should have been done. He just said
Okay.
that, hey, you look, Nippon Steel company can monitor this particular parameter, right? But we can't.
Oh,
And that
okay.
was the desire for the sea, at that time. So that was a model called solution loss carbon model and all that. That's technicality. I won't get into
Yes.
that. But I found myself figuring out the rest of it. As I'm an engineer, I'm a metallurgical engineer. It did not take a lot to kind of figure out the rest. With of course, doing several things, talking to those people, finding out how they do it, and so on, and what are the parameters available to us as in control map and monitoring. But I figured out the rest, and we started monitoring that. So that was a wonderful experience on that part. The second time I had that was when I joined investment banking, and fresh from B school, and you thought that you knew everything, and there was a business valuation assignment, and it was for a life insurance company, right?
Okay, life
The insurance
insurance.
company wanted to do an IPO, a public offering, and of course there was to be a valuation. Now, all we studied in the B school was the discounted cash flow method and so on, so which is like traditional. And I ended up doing that. And my leader at that time, again a great leader, so he just told me that, have you wondered that in India the life insurance sector is not very old, and therefore you can't do a discounted cash flow valuation. Would it be fair value? So he did not again tell me the deficiencies. He did not tell me I was wrong. Maybe he was being kind to
Yeah.
me, but what he
Okay.
essentially again ended up doing was teaching me the desire for the sea. So immediately I had to shift to how a valuation for a new insurance company is done and so on. So all the times I have felt very motivated, and I have gone on and explored something for myself, and have made a difference. It has always been because there was a leader teaching me directly or indirectly the desire for the sea.
That's great. Well, for one thing, I know that more leaders like this concept. It offers me like a different perspective on something that I've been thinking like. Don't give like people exactly the steps you want them to do. Give them like the overarching goal you would like to achieve.
Yeah.
But from what I'm getting like from Desire for the Sea, it's in the western part. It's mostly like this is what we're going for. Let's get there. Like from what I'm getting when you're talking about the desire for the sea, it's more about it would be nice if you could do this, or and how do you think we can get there, and then getting the people involved in doing the work to get excited about it and figure it out with even less constraints than than traditionally you would have on it.
Yeah.
So and now we talk like I really like this concept about the desire for the sea. And I'm really curious if you have like I don't know if you have some leadership failures that are due like not because you didn't follow it, or some other leadership failures that you witnessed that you would like to share, and what lessons can we draw from them?
that's possibly a less talked about dimension about leadership, right? People talk about successes a lot, not so much
Yes.
about failures. um, So I would say, and it would be very difficult to articulate this possibly. I would say
Okay.
every time I've seen a leadership failure is because the leader has not known himself, and at that same time he or she was trying to lead a set of men or a set of human resources, if you will.
Okay.
So what happens is, I will give you a simple example. Let's say I'm a father to a daughter and a son, and all of us are
Yes.
parents and so on. We see this so many times, right? As in, we are disturbed, we are stressed, or we are not doing something really well at office. Something is stressing us, and we come
Yes.
and see our children doing something naughty or silly or whatever, and we tend to tell them that, come on, this is not the way to do it, totally forgetting at that time that they are children, and that is possibly what you would call age appropriate behavior at that time. So what I'm trying
Yes.
to bring out here is that is not a sign of a good leader. If I'm messed up in my own mind, if I if I have no control, right, how am I supposed to lead a set of human resources? I can't do that. And even if I try with my best intent, what really ends up happening is those guys are dissatisfied, they're far from motivated, and this causes a shift of decision making all the time. This causes fidgety decision making. This causes whims and fancies.
Yeah.
This causes what in investment banking we used to call hubris, right? Because
Yes.
I get too strong willed. Now, will is a thing that society tells us is a very good thing, right? The power of will, the willpower that we so much talk about, and strong leaders are supposed to have strong willpower and so on. However, will also, the negative interpretation of that is hubris, because I'm so used to success. What happens is I don't accept failure, and I put again, to use that corporate phrase, more good money after bad money. I made a decision, it's not working, but I will find every person in the world to put that blame on. I will not accept I am wrong. And so many great leaders, meaning let's not name people, but so many people, well known leaders, have been guilty of this. They made a very good career, but one wrong decision, but because they were so used to successes, they never went back and reconsidered, and therefore they put more good money after bad money, possibly. In this whole episode, whatever they end up doing with a company or their business unit that they're leading
Yes.
is another story. But as far as leadership of human beings is concerned, because they did not have, let's say, a calm mind at that time, they could not result in calm minds of their teams or their people. And it's like, it's that viral thing, it's the pandemic, right? That's
Yes.
the best occasion to understand that if this spreads like fire. If I don't have a calm mind, if I'm stressed and I'm a leader, I will pass it on to the whole team, to my whole team, and they will all feel stressed. And then the second point that I said, if I have hubris, if I am too convinced that I'm always right, I can't be wrong, again that results in very bad things for the whole team. So these are, to my mind, leadership failures, which are the largest. These are the largest reasons for leadership failures.
Well, that hits like really close to home for me, Amar, because I have soon to be 6 year old daughter, and sometimes I let like the stress of work get to me, and I see her doing something, and I'm more abrupt than I would like to be, and then she feels bad, but I feel even worse for
Wow.
it. So I think like it also translates even like in the work environment. If you're a human being, you want your team to succeed, and if you go there and you're strong-willed with an iron hand, uh, they're not going to feel good about it. But then you also don't feel good, but you cannot show it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's
Yeah.
not good for anybody involved in that situation. And as you said, like letting your own if you don't have self-control on yourself and you let your negative emotions impact and take like rash decisions without thinking them through, or letting like excitement take over without saying, let's think about it a little bit. Maybe I know we've been winning like for a long time, but for each situation we should take it like with a grain of salt and see exactly does it make sense or not.
Most
So
of all, we should see that if we can't make peace with ourselves, and we expect peace all around, this is going beyond corporate and goes to the larger world. If you see,
yes,
everyone
I love it.
if you do a survey of all human beings on the planet, as to what is the reason for the mess on the planet, right? Why are human beings in a mess? People will always tell you a name that won't be their own. Right.
Yes.
But the thing is, we are not at peace with ourselves, and we expect others to kind of provide that peace for us. That is an impossible thing. It's like asking for the mirror to reflect a better image of yours, right? That is not possible. The mirror will only show yourself.
And then blaming the mirror maker for making you a bad mirror.
But so many mirrors are flawed, you see.
Yes. You talked about a little about your leadership philosophy, about the build a desire for the ocean. Can you add some more details around it or flesh it out a little more? How would you go like personally to create the desire for the sea in your team?
So let me take my example of my team, right? So I have so many people in my team. The point that I would want to bring out here is no two people are the same. It's again a human thing. Just like no two fingerprints are the same, no two human beings are the same. Now, what we see in corporations is that HR teams, the human resources teams, would find out some ways and modes of motivation, right?
Yes.
And for some it would be money, for some it would be recognition, for some it would be quality of work, for some it would be the general ambience of work, right? The kind of company that we have. For some it would be, does the company have a good culture, and does it encourage extracurricular activities? For some it would be, does it have flexibility of working hours, and so on. These are things that we come across every day. Now what I'm trying to say is, how many ever HR policies you make, you will never cover the kind of diversity that you have in human beings, right? HR can have 10, 20, 30 policies, but you have billions of people on the planet, right? And each guy is different. So what I start out with is, and it's a time well spent, is I spend a lot of time with my new team members trying to understand their motivation, right? What is it that they want to do? It's not like a new guy joins you and you can go tell him that, hey, you want to be the CEO? I'm assuming you want to be the CEO. You joined a company. Of course, the biggest aspiration is you want to be the CEO, because so many people don't want to be the CEO. And this may sound surprising, but this is, I would say, 90% of the people in any given company. Let's say large companies, because the smaller consulting companies, I wouldn't name them, where everyone possibly wants to be a partner and so on. But large companies, 90% of the people have a different goal. They're not looking to be the CEO. They're looking at balance of life. They're looking at, doing the best job that they want to do. They're looking at different things. So it's a time well spent understanding what does a guy want. And then you try and teach him that desire for the sea, which is, you want that and you can get there if you can do this and this and this. And so the rest he automatically figures out. So this always works. This works very well. And you can take any number of examples for this, but for example, some guy joined my team and he wanted to go to sales. Now I work with a strategy team, right? Now, so obviously we don't do sales, we do strategy and planning and so on. So thing was, he had a desire to meet people and be visible, be recognized. His motivation was recognition, right? And
Yes.
so what you need to do that is you need to project a role in your team which gives him more visibility to people, to the customer, to the sales
Yes.
guys. And he won't know it, but he'll become very happy doing his job. That will motivate him, and that will, end of the day, take him more towards his goal. So that is what I call desire for the C, right? And the way to execute that is a complete understanding of the other individual. So leaders need to spend real good time understanding. It may sound like a waste of time when a team goes for a party, but to my mind,
Yes.
that's a very important time. That's a time well spent. In fact, organizations do pay for that and should pay for that. So should pay for such outings, because unless you know your team member really well, right? And that happens in parties, right, where you're free to
Yes.
speak, free to kind of behave the way you want to, and so on. It's a very
You're
important thing in team work and leadership.
Yeah, you're more free to express yourself in the party, and it's not a formal setting. Maybe
Yeah.
have a beer or two, so you're more loose to tell exactly what's on your mind. But I like your idea of it's something that I also thought about, that it would be good, and it's good to have it like validated, is aligning individual team members motivation and desires for doing the work
Yeah.
with the goals of the company. So trying to show them how what they want to achieve in their life can be done through what you're trying to achieve as a team. So I think that's a way. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It takes a lot of time, personal time you have to spend as a leader with each individual member of your team, get to know them. But that's how you ensure that they're going to have a fabulous time working with you. They're going to remember you later on, and you cut down on churn and burnout and all the awful things, because you always are in close contact with your team members and know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh,
So my analogy, a simple analogy for this would be, let's say your car in a mechanic shop, right, in a garage. What happens is, let's say I'm a corporation, I want to monitor the time spent on work for each of my employees and resources, right? What happens
yes,
there uh, is that the analogy is I would want my car running all 12 months, right? Day in and
yes,
day out. But then that would make the car very poor, and the car would be at 50% productivity, if at all. Otherwise, it would break down. But if you do a regular maintenance of the car, right, which is spending some time
yes.
off work, so to say, the car operates well and it gives you double the productivity. So it makes economic sense, it makes leadership sense, it makes motivation and teamwork sense to kind of work in that fashion. Yeah.
Love it, love it. Um, and now let's shift a little gears and go like for some more rapid fire
Sure.
answers. What would be like your top 3 leadership tips you have for aspiring leaders?
First is know yourself. Second is know the guy you're going to lead. And third is teach him the desire for the sea.
Okay, awesome. I like how you're tying everything together. No loose ends here. And what would be the book that had the most profound impact on you?
The book that had the most profound impact on me was Ashtavakra Gita. That's a book I don't know if you're aware of. That is all about awareness and the concept of ego, and the question that you asked me first, which is who are you? So that
Okay,
answers that is a book on Advait Vedanta philosophy in Hinduism, which says that you're not your body, you're not your mind, right? Uh,
okay,
and therefore, the moment you realize that you're free of all pain, right? Because the mind keeps changing morning, evening, afternoon, right? We think a person
yes,
is good in the morning, in the afternoon, we have second thoughts. By evening, again, we are sure the guy is good, right? How can you
yes,
trust that mind? So the gives you the impression it's very logical. Many times it is not. Similarly, the body keeps changing, right? We were kids at some time, we will grow very old and fragile sometime. So we are not the body. So, that thing. So that book had a very, it had an influence on me. It impacted me. And that was the book I liked. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And Amar, where can people go to find out more about you?
So I'm on all social media. Again, like I said to the first answer, on LinkedIn, if you find me, you will see the degrees that I have and the qualifications and the job that I do and I have done in the past. On Facebook, I am a more social self. I write my views on what is happening, now during the lockdown and what is the Prime Minister's move. Do I agree with him or not, and so on. On Instagram or something, I post the pictures of my book and the quotes from my books and so on. So on different platforms, to suit the particular platform, I go and reflect that aspect of my personality.
And what are your books, Amar?
Okay, so
because
my
you've been
first
teasing
book,
us about your books, but you have to name them.
No, so that was again. So it is my day job is my day job, and my degrees and qualifications make me engineer, MBA, and whatnot, and that is what I do for a living. But then that eternal question of mind and heart. The heart says something, you need to put it down, right? Some people express it by singing, some people express it by dancing. I express it by writing. And therefore, my first book was called A Week with Enya. So Enya is my daughter, and she is autistic. And so, I found that, I had not really paid attention to the word autism. And these are core learnings of my life, that we have too many words we don't understand, right?
Yes,
we don't understand a thing, we give it a name and we stick with the name. For example, autism is, no two autistic guys are the same, if you know autism, and still we have a word for that. So what does the word ever mean? The word means nothing.
Yeah.
And so I that inspired the book, that we just give names and we don't understand. The second thing is, whatever we seek to change, ends up changing us. So these were the insights that brought in the book A Week with Enya. The second book was called The Third, which was the concept of the first being the body, the second being the mind. The third is who we are. And very recently, I published a book called Maya, which is about the recent pandemic, and how a poor man is walking hundreds of miles to his hometown. If you follow news in India, you will see that many poor laborers are trying to return back home during this pandemic.
Yes, and it's hard, especially with the restrictions. I bet it's not easy.
Sorry, my son.
Yeah, no problem. So with all the restriction, I'm sure it's hard, but we're going to have links for the books inside the show notes, and people, if they're interested, I highly recommend. I bet they're really, really interesting reads, especially after having this conversation with you. You're a really interesting guy, and I found out a new point of view, a more Eastern, let's say, point of view. And it's really, really interesting about how leadership is perceived differently from different viewpoints around the world. And I hope to show as many of them as possible. Well, Amar, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. And
thank you so much, Andrei. It was equally interesting talking to you, and we had a great conversation. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, have a great day.
That was today's episode. Tune in daily. Rate, like, subscribe, and share, please. Oh, you can find further info and materials in the show notes on techyleadership.com, including links to the guest book recommendations.